ready?
One sec, we're just waiting for Jen to hop on.
Oh, okay, no,
We
no.
didn't have enough room in here.
That's fine.
Okay. So once I start this recording, then we'll be good to go. Okay. Did she get it?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, thank you. Fabulous. I'm just gonna stand here for a second.
Okay.
Make sure we're good. Okay. I think we're good.
You want me to start? As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. I call the meeting to order. And we're reviewing two previous meeting minutes. We'll start with December 21st. Do I hear any changes or additions? Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion to accept the minutes from Tuesday, December 21st.
Kevin do I hear a second motion?
Second.
Second from Ronald. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous in favor. The minutes passed for that.
I didn't vote because I wasn't,
Right.
okay.
Right.
I don't know who's taking the minutes, but I didn't vote because I wasn't here for the two meetings.
And then, December 28th, the minutes, any discussion, corrections? Okay, do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes from Tuesday, December 28th.
Okay, Kevin has made the motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the, both meeting minutes have been accepted. And we'll go on to the Board of Health work section.
All right, so the first item this evening is to possibly amend the declaration of public health emergency mask order. We've discovered that there's been some issues with musicians renting out space, and arguing that the order doesn't apply to them. It's been a request of the community center director to have that amended to include any brass wind instruments, singing, to include either larger social distancing per performers or not allow it entirely. So I did amend the current existing declaration as a draft for what the state had required previously when we were in increased COVID times. So
Okay.
the verbiage that's been added there was the same that we had about a year ago.
Can we make a comments on anything else in
You,
there?
you can change anything, yeah, absolutely.
All right, in the second paragraph, starting masks for cloth facings. Down there in the middle where it says, this shall be applicable when social distancing of 6 feet cannot be maintained. I have a question about that. When people are walking into the town hall, all right, you don't know whether you're gonna be 6 feet apart. I think when they're since we're only gonna be using, town hall or the community center or town type things, I think they ought to be wearing a mask,
Okay.
period. I don't, somebody to say, gee, I'm 6 feet apart, I don't think you can determine that.
And is that even when they're seated?
Yes, because I've seen it when it's over there, people come in and sit down next to you, now all of a sudden they're not wearing a mask and you are, and, they kind of look at you like, so I'm thinking, when you're in the town hall or what other, the library or wherever, I think they should be wearing masks.
So remove that it should be applicable in social distancing of 6 feet cannot
Yes,
be
that's,
maintained.
yes, that would be my thought.
If we delete that, can we add in a stipulation for employees who are in their own offices or who have their own workspace, just so their employees aren't wearing a mask in their private office with the closed door?
All right, let me put this, let me put it this way. Are you allowed to ask your coworker whether they've been vaccinated?
I don't believe so.
All right. Then I have a problem with that, because you're gonna have somebody there that's not necessarily wearing a mask, and you don't know, are they not wearing a mask because they don't think they can be contagious, or that they didn't get vaccinated? I think when you're in a workplace, close like that, you should be wearing a mask. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how anybody else would feel, but
So if you have an office that is your office and nobody else's, and you're sitting there.
you mean by yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're sitting there by yourself, that's not an issue.
Oh, okay.
But if you've got somebody else in that office
Yes.
space,
Yeah,
all right, then I think you need to be wearing a mask, because you can't ask them, are you vaccinated? So,
Right.
you know, everybody doesn't wear a mask, you have no idea what you're up against. And this Omicron is highly, highly contagious, and I don't think people realize this.
So we do have a few spaces too that, it's not necessarily a closed office, but a room this size, one employee's desk would be over there and another employee's desk would be over there. Is
I
that-
don't agree with that.
Yeah.
If
Not
they have their
acceptable.
own room, totally enclosed behind a door, I'd be okay with
Yeah.
it. It's our same policy at work.
Mhm.
As soon as that door opens, I need a doctor's attention. They're in their private workroom. They will put their mask on before I open the door.
Yeah,
So I think anybody that's in the same room, in a town building, should have it on no matter
Yeah.
what.
See, I think, and I'll tell you the reason I feel that way. Most buildings, okay, even new ones, are not gonna be ventilated to handle this. All right, so you're breathing, you're, whatever else you're doing in there, it's circulating.
And so would they be allowed to continue to eat and drink at their desks, or can they remove their, most of people don't take a full lunch break and get outside, a lot of them are at their desks.
See, I guess I come back to the same thing. You're vaccinated and you've taken your precaution, and you've got a coworker that hasn't, and they're gonna sit there and eat and drink. You know, it's,
So I guess you could put in a stipulation, mask can be removed when eating or drinking if fully vaccinated, you could do that.
you could say that,
I don't
Now,
know how
you
we
can't
would
ask the person,
enforce
you don't
it.
know if they're being honest, but you would hope if it's
Yeah.
somebody you're working with, you know, they're not gonna expose you to it, but, I mean, over the vacation, when you hear the number of people that have been in contact, you know, not necessarily even close contact, that have picked it up, that are testing positive, I'm astounded. So, I just think for everybody's safety, whether you're vaccinated or not, I think you need to be wearing a mask when you're in, and we can't say anything about the businesses, but you can about the town. So those are my comments and thoughts. You know, we're open to discussion, I guess.
any other discussion from anybody else?
Where I work, everyone wears a mask. I mean,
Yeah.
all department members, regardless of their status, they wear masks.
So you want me to add in, employees in private offices may remove mask when alone, must have private door for removal, or how do you want that worded?
If you, you know, if you're in,
If your office is a one-person office behind closed doors,
yeah,
period, easy enough.
but I'm saying how I would feel. I wouldn't want somebody even sitting over there, and both of us not wearing a mask if I didn't know they were vaccinated.
So I just got one, sorry to interrupt, that the audio is poor right now. Dan or Emily, can either of you just confirm, are you having a hard time hearing the board right now?
It's Emily, and I'm having a very difficult time hearing you clearly.
Okay, so we're gonna move these microphones a little bit closer to you guys, if you can pull yours a little closer that way, and just make sure that it's picking up, so that everyone can hear. Can you hear a little better now?
Katie, it's Jen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yep.
So the volume is okay, but every once in a while, all of the words are getting jumbled together and I can't make out what anyone is saying.
Would it
Okay.
help if we spoke slower?
We could definitely try it.
Okay.
So Jen, jump in and interrupt if you can't hear, or if it's jumbled.
Okay.
Will do.
Do you need anything to be repeated up to now?
I didn't catch any of that if it was
Oh.
for me, Jen.
Do you need anybody to repeat anything? Oh,
No, I'll refer to the recording that Katie's doing, tomorrow for the minutes, but just going forward, it might be helpful if only one person speaks, and maybe a little bit slower, that might help. I did message Jamie, and she's gonna see what she can do.
thank you. Okay.
So just to go back and ensure that I have the correct information, we're going to scratch the social distancing clause. Add in, if an employee is in an office behind closed doors, mask may be removed when alone.
Yeah.
And then any other amendments or changes?
Do we have to say there that if somebody enters the room, both must be wearing a mask, then they have,
We can add that in. Regardless of social distancing.
that's my opinion.
What
So
do
would
we,
this take place of the existing meeting provision that we have in place? Do you want this to supersede the current meeting that we have for open meetings that allow, when seated, for social distancing masks to be?
Yeah.
any discussion from anybody else? Agreement, okay. So what do we say about the eating? I can't remember now.
So you didn't finish the discussion, I think that's what we were on.
Oh, okay.
What's the discussion for if an employee is eating at their own desk
If they're
or
alone,
drinking?
if they're alone.
So again, 2 people in a room, we can't, not allow people to have a water break. That's we're gonna get some pushback if it's that severe, if you're not gonna allow water at
I
the
mean,
desk.
somebody ought to be able to just take a sip of water, put
Yeah.
their mask back up.
Yeah.
But eating a meal,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's entitled to a break by law,
Yeah.
so they ought to be
Yeah.
able to get a
You-
break
you
covered
could- You
and
can
go eat
easily
something.
pull it and take a,
And so would the break rooms only be one person at a time, or how would you like that handled? There's only one break room in town hall, and I think DPW only has one.
Understand it's a difficulty, but I mean, people do have to eat. That's the one exception in our office. But everybody does try and keep socially distant in the break room. I've never seen any more than
Yeah.
one person per table back there in almost 2 years, so.
yeah, I guess you do the best you can in the lunchroom.
In the lunchroom,
So,
let's
yeah,
say in
maybe
the dining
stagger,
hall,
stagger,
6 feet of social
okay.
Yeah.
distancing should be maintained.
Yeah. Stagger if you can.
Yeah, I have a problem telling them you can't have a sip of water, that
No,
type
and
of
you can
thing.
easily
Yeah.
do that. Or even like he said, loosen the one side.
Yeah, for a short time.
Yeah.
So in break room, 6 feet of social distancing must be maintained and staggered breaks are preferred.
Yeah.
This updated order shall supersede any prior emergency orders.
Okay.
Any other amendments? For the performance is okay?
No, I think going back to the way the performances were before, making it at least 25 feet between the performance and the audience, I mean, I'm okay with it the way it's written here. We're going back to where it was last year. They should be keeping a much larger distance between the performer and the audience. And, if that performer doesn't think there's room enough for them in that location in town building, they can find someplace else to go.
Yeah.
Okay, any other amendments?
I don't.
So do we need to,
So you would need to vote to
okay,
accept the amendments as discussed.
As discussed.
do I hear a motion to accept the amendments as discussed between us all for the declaration of public health emergency mask order?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay,
I'll second it.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, passed, okay.
All right, on to the COVID update. So since we've met, there have been a lot of changes at the state and federal level. Isolation has been dropped down to 5 days of home isolation with 5 days of strict mask use. We won't argue whether that's the right move or not, that's what it is. We have seen a total of 1,428 cases of COVID over the entire pandemic. Percent positivity is currently actually higher than the 12%. It's closer to 15%, and Massachusetts is closer to 21%. Over the past 5 days, we've tracking 33 active cases, which is lower than it has been in a while. But compared to what the 10 days would have been, it would have been 148 if we were still tracking 10 days versus 5 days. So it does look like it's smaller, but that is a 5-day. I included the flow chart that we had provided to employees that assists with all of the changes. A recent update today is that the federal government will ship 4 COVID tests directly to your house. Individuals should go to covidtest.gov. They'll automatically send 4 tests per household, and we're hoping in the future they'll be able to send more.
I will say, I've done that, and it's very, very easy compared to trying to get the COVID shots, but they set this up, that really went smooth. Yeah.
Oh, 2 years too late, but hey, we'll take it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And that's it for my COVID update.
Okay, thank you, it was very informative. Okay.
Do you want me to open?
Yeah, I'm
So the
sorry,
next
yes.
would be the Board of Health discussion on sewer extension criteria. We do have Dan Pelletier on, our wastewater commissioner, if anyone has any questions or comments for him as well.
I'm only going to start out, and then I'm going to let Dan take over, but, and I had spoken to Dan previously, and currently, I think it is the 2-year extension from the time that people get their notice. If people are going to need an extension, my feeling is it needs to be on a case-by-case basis. I don't think we can come up with scenarios that is going to cover all the possibilities where people may really need an extension beyond what is required. So that as far as my feeling on how it goes, but I'll let Dan's got some good explanations here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep,
Yes.
All right, I guess I'd just like to kind of bring the board up to speed on kind of the discussions that we've had from the town's perspective over the past couple of years whenever we've been out meeting with the public with respect to waivers and things of that nature. So what has been kind of spoke about in public session is waivers for things like, if there's a senior citizen who's, not to be morbid, but near death, that they could file for an extension and, upon passing, the waiver could be acted on and connection to the sewer system could be made. There were other things of financial hardship where, someone maybe has 3 kids in college and they're waiting for them to get out and they're going to be out in 3 years, that, we may give them a 1-year extension so long as that there was a plan mutually agreed upon by the town and the applicant as to making progress towards that connection. So, we had told people that if they were granted an acceptance, that they would be, asked to bring back to the board, say in 2 years' time, the design plans. So that then we can say, okay, we've got the design done, now what's a realistic time frame for you to get this connection done. But really, it's the balance between the fact that we do have to meet our nitrogen removal requirements, but also be, cognizant that our neighbors may not have the ability to do this financially right up. Those were a lot of the discussions that I hadn't participated in, but I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. But I will say everyone is a little jumbled. Sharon is coming across the most clear, so if questions could be funneled through her, that would be easiest for me to reply.
I would like to add something to that, because we had discussed, I think, when we would be discussing it, like, for instance, on a case-by-case basis, one of the things I think that would have to be, in any case, is if during the time we would allow an extension, that system fails, then something needs to be done. You can't wait, you can't say, all right, we're going to give you 5 years or 3 years, and now your system fails. We can't let you go with a failed system for 3 years. So I think in any case where we would, work out a plan for an extension, has to include that caveat that if the system fails, this is what must be done.
Yeah, I think standard caveats, like what you just mentioned, or if the property transfers,
Yeah.
Or a standard
Yes.
list of caveats that is included there, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah. And I said, I thought maybe there was a possibility where we as the board, since the people would be coming before the board, list a couple of caveats down there. All right, you might have somebody, like he was saying, nearing the end of the time, or you've got kids in school, or you just put in a new system and you've only had 2 years in the new system. How much could we grant? So just some of the scenarios, not necessarily the outcomes, but these are some of the scenarios we might come up against that we can think about. But I think other than actually saying what our plan is, that yes, it's the 2 years. If you need an extension, it has to come to the board, because I think otherwise to try to come up with a plan and list all the possibilities, because every case to me is going to be different.
I would say there may be one instance, Sharon, that as we're talking this through, that may lend itself to some standard. For, let's say, the situation where someone has a newer septic system.
Yeah.
Maybe put in within 2 to 3 years prior to the collection system going in, that there be a standard extension allotment for those, so that you're not handling such a large quantity
Yeah.
of those applicants.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause when we were talking about this a couple of years ago, people had asked that question, just that, I just put in a new septic system, what does that mean for me?
Mm-hmm.
And the response from the town at the time was, septic systems, we've seen fail as early as 5 to 8 years. So don't expect much beyond that if you've just put in a brand new system, because, we have a nitrogen issue that we need to address, and systems do fail in that time frame. So there could be a standard set there, but I think you're in the correct approach to keep it on a case by case.
And I think that type of situation, I think we can say, all right, within a certain time frame, yeah, you can allow that. But again, I thought that was the reason to put that caveat, but even so, if that fails in the meantime, then
Right.
you have to do something.
There could be an inspection caveat as well, that the
All right,
homeowner
yeah.
submit a septic inspection, every other year or every 3 years during the extension period, to make sure that it's still operating properly.
Okay.
And so my only request for the board, if you do want to see every extension, which would make sense, it takes a lot on the staff to plan all the meetings, so we're gonna have to either have availability and set days and times that we know we can have a quorum, or we need some kind of guarantee that we'll get a response within 24 hours, because on our level, booking all of these hearings takes weeks for something that might sound really short. So we'll really need the board, if you wanna see all of these, which is great, I think that's fantastic, but you'll really need to step up and be involved with the hearings and getting back to us, so we can book rooms, get public advertisings out there.
Can we, let's say we start out by case by case and it comes to the board. If we start to see large numbers, can we do something where you as the, kind of like we did with some of the other things, you make that decision? And maybe even in conjunction with Dan, get his opinion.
You could, yep, you could do an in-house one, but then we would need to know the set criteria where you're okay with us approving it.
All right, so maybe before that even gets started, come up with some of the criteria, all right? And if it starts to get unwieldy with the number of cases, then, okay, then it's gonna fall to you and with Dan's input to do it. Does that sound reasonable then?
Certainly, yeah. And if you want to see everyone, that's reasonable too, but we just need to make sure that we get
I-
a response.
I think with Dan saying that 5 to 8 years, they can fail. I mean, I think with a new system, we could say 5 years, but with an inspection at 2, 4,
Yeah.
and the 5th, but cut it off at 5 years, even if it is a new system.
And I think those kind of things could easily be handled by you. It might be some of the more difficult situations that you might want to call a board meeting if to do that.
And we have 2 years to figure this out.
Yeah.
This isn't something
Yeah.
that we have to figure out today. People have 2 years to connect, and that's really when we'll start to see the
So is
extension.
that enough for the sewer regulations to put something in place that we can say we have sewer extension regulations?
Well, it wouldn't be a regulation, it would
It'd be
just, it would be a criteria if you wanted to have it by right.
All right, okay.
You would
Yeah.
have to vote on that, but that wouldn't be something we
All right.
would do this evening.
All right,
And again, we do have the 2 full years to really hash this out.
all right, all right.
If I may too, I think the numbers, it's gonna be a smaller number than, we think. And I'm just going based on, the amount of abatement requests that the water department gets. We issue 10,000 bills 4 times a year, and, we only do get a small amount of abatements. And I think that people who need this will apply for it. But, this first bundle that we're sending out is only 440 customers. So I expect that wouldn't be too cumbersome over the 2-year period for us to take care of.
All right.
And believe it or not, some people are excited, so.
Yeah, I mean, COVID has also put hardships on a lot of families, and like I said, if we handle it on an individual basis, we have the opportunity to understand that and hear them out, and I also feel like that's important.
I think we need to be compassionate towards the people that really need the help, and there's going to be people that do, and I think we need to be prepared to deal with that. Anything more?
Sounds good. When do the letters go out to these 440? He probably didn't hear me.
Dan, did
Dan,
Chatham
what-
sign the agreement today?
We're wondering when the letters go out. Was it signed that the letters can go out?
No, the meeting, today's meeting was rescheduled to tomorrow, so hopefully tomorrow I'll have some excellent news to report. Unfortunately delayed another day.
Okay.
All right.
Did you want Dan's input on the fertilizer? Did you,
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
okay with you, could we skip to the fertilizer one?
Oh,
And that
yes,
way,
of
Dan,
course.
yeah, all right.
Yep.
So this will be just brief. The review of Harwich Fertilizer Policy Guidelines for Nutrient Control.
Can I just add, before we get Dan in here? All right, I have just two quickies. All right, the information where we actually list the, over here under number 5, the guidelines, where we start phosphorus and all of that, to me, needs to be up front here, instead of going back 3 pages before people get to that. The number 6, the guidelines, where we say phosphorus-containing fertilizer may only be applied when a soil, in other words, those specific things, those bullet points, move that up under purpose before we get to authority. In other words, you can say what has to be done, and then we have the authority to do it.
Jen's asking for you to slow down right now.
Sorry, Jen. Okay, I'm saying section 6, move that to, under number 2, purpose, so that when people look at this or pull it up online, what they're going to see on that first page are the guidelines, not the authority and applicability, but what they have to or cannot do. I just thought that should be more upfront. That's just an opinion on that.
So move section 6 to section 2.
Yeah, under number 2. And then the only other thing was, when I did do this, and this was my fault, I will take full responsibility for this, under those applications, I did see the ones from MDR, where they did mention, no application of plant material shall be made between December 1st and March 1st. And I didn't put that in there. So I think, under that section with the phosphorus-containing fertilizer type stuff, that needs to be there.
Sorry, we're under.
You see where it says guideline 6, then go down to the 3rd bullet point. No application of plant material shall be made. And then the first thing we have is frozen or snow-covered soil. The state has in there, the first thing was between December 1st and March 1st, so I think we ought to put that in there. That was my mistake.
Okay.
I don't make many.
So section 6 to section 2, and then add in between December 1st and March 1st.
Yeah.
Under.
Now,
no
I don't know if
application.
that makes sense to anybody else. I don't know what everybody's feeling is. That's just me looking at it. I thought, if I had to read through all of this, people are going to like, oh, yeah. Where I think if we hit them with the guidelines up front, and then add that date.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody?
So I can amend these and then bring back a clean copy, and we can vote to accept it as
Okay.
an educational on the
All
next
right.
meeting.
And then I think Dan has a lot to add to the fertilizer situation.
Shall I jump back on?
Yep.
So, I'm happy to join the board tonight to discuss, all things fertilizer. So, I was just as disappointed as you, I'm sure, to see the legal opinion, informing us that we needed to rescind that, as there were 200 kilograms per year of nitrogen credit assigned to the town by adopting said fertilizer bylaw, with our watershed permit through the Pleasant Bay Alliance. Now, upon getting the memo from legal counsel, I did reach out to DEP and begin discussions with them as to what we can do as a town to try to retain those 200 kilograms per year of nitrogen credit. So since that time, the guy that we started the discussion with has retired, and his replacement has just come on board. I was fortunate enough to spend last Thursday morning with him to do the startup for contract 2 pump station, and did bring the fertilizer bylaw conversation to the table at that point when I was in front of him. And he was just as amicable as Brian Dudley was to developing a local policy or bylaw, not bylaw because we can't have a bylaw, but a local policy around fertilizer. And through the adoption of a local policy as well as a public, PR campaign to local, say, appliers, right? The landscapers are the ones who are applying the fertilizer. The site ones, the landscape supply hosts, that we could work with DEP to develop a public PR campaign so that we could do that in conjunction with the local policy to retain our 200 kilograms per year of credit. So I have kind of see that as one of, I guess, my many hats, as it's kind of correlated back to the watershed permit that I see myself responsible for. But I would look to do that in concert with the Board of Health, being that you guys are the authors of the policy.
Now, I'd like to add, I'd like to add something to that. Based on our CWMP, all right, we at the time did not elect to do bylaws. And as a result, when this came through, that we couldn't get grandfathered in. So we can't do bylaws or regulations, all right? But what we had agreed to was fertilizer education. And in the decision that came down from Cape Cod, it does state that we had agreed to the education. They wanted to know who was going to be responsible, what education material they were going to use, and how much money was going to be put aside for that educational. Now, up till now, we really haven't done much of anything, so I think in lieu of everybody else having regulations or bylaws, we're not stuck, but we can do a policy, but it's got to include the education, unless, and this is going to be a Dan question, when they redo or update the CWMP, can that be changed in some way, or are we stuck with the educational part?
Well, I would say that the educational part, so the CWMP, what I would say is separate than our watershed permit, right? So the Pleasant Bay Alliance watershed permit has that 200 kilograms. And we could, I think the PR campaign is the most realistic avenue for us to retain those credits. But I will say that the credits are at face value somewhat arbitrary, right? Because at the end of the day, what we need to do is install as many nitrogen mitigation, practices, whether it's conventional collection system or IA systems, whatever we need to do to lower the nitrogen concentration at the Sentinel stations in Pleasant Bay. So whether or not we get 200 kilograms of credit for fertilizer bylaw, in 20 years when we install the sewers, if the nitrogen concentration isn't what it's supposed to be, we're going to have to keep going.
Dan,
Now,
can
that
you
said,
can you
I don't think we
explain,
should throw out-
when you're talking about
that?
that, before you go further, can you explain, as far as those credits, the block of time where, like, we had 20 years, but every 5 years, they're going to be,
Right.
explain that.
Yeah, so the watershed permit is structured in 5-year blocks. It's 4 5-year blocks. And we just completed our 3rd year. So within that first year was the installation of phase 2 sewers, which we've done, and as well as adopting the fertilizer bylaw, of which we were going to get 200 kilograms of credit for it. Now, what I would propose over the next, and I would say that we do have really 2 years, because we're just finished the 3rd year of our permit cycle, and I would say that between now and the end of this first 5-year block, we should work with DEP to come up with, a plan for us to keep those credits, for us to put together a public outreach campaign that satisfies what DEP is looking for, and for us to keep those credits. And that's what I would ultimately be looking to do over the next, year or two, as we round out this first 5-year block of our watershed permit.
Okay.
I just would recommend to moving definitions either to the beginning or to the end instead of having it right in the middle.
All right, the definitions.
Section 5,
Okay, moving it where?
either beginning or end of the document would be my
so-
recommendation.
What if we make definite, without changing the number of headings we have, what if we make definitions 8, put it very last, move everything up a little bit, and then make the guidelines. I don't think we even needed, I think we just put 6 where number 3 is, right underneath the purpose, move those ones down, and then take definitions, move it to the very last, make it number 8, and move 8 and 7 up 1 each.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I think that's workable.
So we'll have one less section if we're combining.
Yeah, just put 1, 2, as is, make 3 the
6.
guidelines, make 3 6, and then 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5,
Okay.
and then what would happen is then 7 would wind up becoming 6, 8 would be 7, and then we do definitions 5, we make 8.
Make it 8, the last one, yeah. Okay.
Dan, before we move on?
Anything else, Dan?
No, I'm good. You know, as the fertilizer, you know, regs or policy or whatever, you know, solidifies and we get further along, I'll be interested to bring that to, you know, put together a PR campaign and make sure we check all the boxes. So.
Can you just let us know, keep us in the loop, just when, you know, when things are moving and when things are getting done, just so we have some idea?
Absolutely, and I was just passed along Brian Dudley's email replacement the week before last, I think it was. So now that his replacement's filled his shoes, we can now kind of begin these discussions. So I expect them to start moving forward soon.
All right, that way if we have to update or modify any of this as things change, instead of waiting until, you know, everything kind of piles up, I guess it would be easy enough to amend these if things are, you know, pertinent things come up.
Yeah, well, I guess if you guys have a final draft, you know, once you have a final draft in place, I would be happy to take that and, you know, work with DEP to see
All
what
right.
they would accept as a PR campaign.
That would be great.
I can get the final draft on the next meeting.
All right. And then we can always update as it moves forward if there's, you know, other changes.
And I don't, you know, and I'm just spitballing here, but this may be a good idea. I'm sure there's got to be, you know, fertilizer appliers have a license and they must have continuing education credits they must maintain. It may be something we could even partner with, you know, one of the landscape supply houses to host an educational, you know, seminar to update them on Harwich's policies that they could get continuing education credits for, something that would incentivize the applicators to
That's
take
a good
this
idea.
information in and use it, you know?
Yeah, good idea.
I don't know if they
Proof
need
of
a
thought.
fertilizer, I know pesticide operators do, I'm not sure if fertilizer.
Yeah, I'm not, it's certainly out of my wheelhouse, but
Yeah.
I'm sure someone
Yeah,
can get.
I don't
get
think
me.
fertilizer requires continuing education, but pesticide
Oh,
application
okay.
does.
All right.
Good thought, though.
All right. That's
All
cool.
right.
Thank you, everyone. If you need me, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to come back.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
All right.
All right, back on to discussion regarding revision of animal regulations.
But do we have to vote on anything?
Nope, just a work session.
Okay. I feel like the blabbermouth. When it comes to these animal regulations, I'm up against a brick wall on this. I've looked at our bylaws, and I am by no means an expert on the bylaws, so I'm just going to throw that out there. There's a number of things in there, and I'm just going to go over a couple, because it'll explain what my dilemmas are. We are a right to farm community, and that does mean keeping and raising poultry, and that includes swine or pigs, all right? They do require that, it includes for domestic pets, and they are required to have, you don't call them kennels, but whatever you put pigs in. Pens, there we go, that'll work, okay. So, along with that, we have one here that's our bylaw, it's under 325-14, supplemental regulations. It said are permitted by rights on lots containing a minimum of 5 acres. For less than 5 acres shall be special permit. So now we're going back to the definitions where they said the keeping and raising of poultry and swine. So we're saying it has to have at least 5 acres, and if it's less, then you need a special permit. When you go to 325-10, and this is one of my dilemmas, prohibited uses in all zoning districts. The commercial raising or keeping, now that says commercial, for use or sale of swine or fur-bearing animals. So that is prohibited according to these bylaws. So as I'm trying to work on what I'm going to do with some of these,
So it's my understanding, because we're a right to farm town, as long as you have the minimum of the 2 acres, which the zoning officer would be the one to determine if it meets the requirements, which I believe is 1,000 per acre, don't hold me to that, but they would be exempt as an agricultural use. As a right to farm town, you can't prohibit the use through regulation.
so, yeah. But now, they're not necessarily, well, I don't know. That's the way 32510 is worded, prohibited in all zoning districts. Commercial, that says commercial, raising or keeping swine or fur-bearing animals. Okay. So that needs clarifying, and I don't know whether I need to speak with somebody in zoning. So I need some help there.
Yep.
Now-
So it's 2 separate things. So the zoning would be for any normal use, that's what that.
Mhm.
And then there's an cultural exemption. So the properties that meet that exemption would then be exempt by that zoning criteria.
Okay, all right, then let me go back to this one. Under this supplemental regulation, which is 32514. And then it says agricultural uses consistent with Massachusetts General Law 40A3 are permitted by right on lots containing a minimum of 5 acres. For less, you need a special permit. So that's say it again. Under D, non-commercial raising and keeping of not more than 2 pigs. Pigs shall be kept in an enclosure approved by the Board of Health. Said enclosure should be not less than 50 feet from any boundary line or building used for human habitation in any residential zone, and in no case shall the keeping and raising of pigs be permitted on any lot less than 40,000 square feet. So, as I'm trying to put some of these animal regulations together, as I'm looking at these other towns, all right, and I have here, and I don't have all their regulations, but I have Brewster, Chatham, Dennis, South Yarmouth, and Bourne, where they have setbacks and enclosures for the barns and enclosures or coops. I can't find in our zoning, and I may not be looking in the right place, I can't find anything that's telling us any type of boundary. So
So you would actually be coming up with the boundaries.
so when I say us, we don't go,
For a
so
specific
it's,
permit. So if you're permitting a farm, say a chicken coop, even though we don't do chickens just for ease, you would be the permitting authority for that individual species. You could create setbacks.
so it's not based on the zoning bylaws.
Unless zoning has, you can't be less strict than the zoning. You can be more strict, but you couldn't be less strict.
But if we don't seem to have any,
Then you could create a setback.
or do we need to go to zoning and ask them?
You could do both, but you as the Board of Health, for the permitting authority, can require a certain setback. So say it was 50 feet, if you as the Board of Health wanted 100 feet, you could, but you could not make it 25 feet.
All right, then is it possible for maybe 1 or 2 of us, and I can do it myself, if we can meet with some of the people, and I don't know if there's anybody out here, but anyone that is raising pigs,
So you could meet with the Agricultural Commission if you want to do a
oh,
joint
the
meeting with
Agricultural
them.
Commission, okay.
And you can take public comment if there's anyone right now, if you wanted to do that.
All right, where we can get some input from the people that this might be applicable to. And I have, like some of the setbacks that the other towns are using for, and there's a lot of different things. So, a lot of them, wetlands seem to be 100 feet, and I think that's going to be some sort of a regulation. But some of the other things, like property lines or a butter's dwelling, some of that stuff is going to be open to us. But I think in all fairness, since I'm not in the farming, that it would behoove us to at least include, like you're saying, somebody from the Agricultural Commission, and what do they think is reasonable? That doesn't mean we have to do it, but at least get their input. And then, I guess, do we need to check with zoning? Do they want to come up with the regulations, or do they want us to come up with it and then?
So we could invite either John Eidman, the town planner, in, or our new building commissioner in as the zoning enforcement agents.
Who is the second person?
Our building commissioner.
Who's that?
He's brand new.
Oh, okay.
Rob Picarelli.
Oh, okay. All right, because
So
I'm kind.
we could invite them in for a meeting.
All
to
right.
come discuss some of the questions.
All right, and then anybody, and I would need some contact in the Agricultural Commission.
We could reach out to them.
All right,
I don't know, we'd have to sit down and figure out our next meeting, but I think it's already pretty packed. So it might have to go on a March meeting or be a special meeting.
is it possible for me to get together with some of these people separately, or does it need to be in an open forum?
You could just as a citizen get their opinion.
And then bring it back?
You could do that.
All right, because I don't,
There's two of us right here.
all right, so,
And they can
okay.
speak now if you want to hear public
Yes.
comment. That's,
Do you have any comments on this, like who?
so you're gonna try to have to come up, there's not a microphone over there, but kind of come as close as you can.
Hi, Jeff Brown, member of the Agricultural Commission.
Oh, perfect.
You have questions, or you want me to?
Well, I guess, is there a time that I maybe could set up with you to discuss, like, the thing?
Anytime you like.
Oh, all right, and then after the meeting, I'll
Yeah.
get some contact and sit down and see what your feelings are in this, based on what else I have, because for me to sit here and come up with, I mean, I'm stumbling with this. I've gone through this for hours now, and I'm getting nowhere.
All right, that'd be great.
All right, so do you have any comments about the way we're thinking about going about this?
No, we're just looking to have some regulation, because as of right now, there isn't. I brought this issue up in August. I'm looking to raise pigs.
Mm-hmm.
I have over 40,000 square feet, but I'm not getting a third one until you tell me what the regulations are.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it is hampering me that I can't move on because I'm now 6 months down the road. So
Yeah, all right, then, we can set up something, and the sooner we get this moving, I'd like to get something down as
That'd be
well
great.
as on the regulations. All right, and I will see you then after the meeting
Sure.
and get your contact.
I can forward it to you if you
Oh.
want, so they don't have to stay. I
Okay,
have the
all right.
information.
Hi, my name is Aaron Gingrass.
Okay.
I'm farming here in town for, well, let's say since I've been 10 years old. So it's quite a while.
Okay.
On the Prairie Lodge right here across from Prairie Valley Golf Course. That's my property. I've been farming for the past 30 years. I think these bylaws, I think the ones you're reading are pretty old. And I don't know, I had pigs back when I was 12 years old. It was fun. I don't really care to do it now, but there used to be a place in North Harwich, they used to have auctions multiple times a year down the Heron River off of Main Street. They had all kinds of animal there, auctions and everything. Agriculture used to be big in this town. Unfortunately, it's gotten smaller and smaller every year. Nobody wants to do the hard work for what you get out of it. The harder you make it for farmers, the less they're gonna be.
Yeah.
At one time, Harwich had over 2,000 acres of cranberry bogs. Right now, we're down to about 100. So, I'd like to see as much support as we can get for the farmers here. Hopefully entice another generation to come along. But there's an old saying, screw the farmer, he's gonna get fed.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to help any way I
Great,
can.
great.
And like I said, I think a lot of those bylaws are old.
Yeah.
Whether when we voted in the right to farm, Whether that stuff got thrown out the window or whatever, I don't know. I do know that the state changed from the 5 acres, I think, down to 2 acres. So you're probably gonna see bylaws that, cross each other.
And I think then, and like I said, these are the only ones I came across. And if I've seen some other inconsistencies here that I think we're gonna have the bylaw committee address. So I think if we see things like this, then we can go back and say, hey, we either need some of these, or these need to be modified in such a way. And I know that for commercial farming, there's another set of regulations, I was looking at that as well, that you gotta kind of follow, and that gets me into the weeds where I'm not a farmer, so it's hard for me to know what we're supposed to be putting in any kind of regulations and what you people would do because of state regulations, that it's not even in our purview to deal with. So I don't know where to separate that. So any input that I can get from you, I'd be more than willing to sit down with,
Sure.
and let's go over, all right?
I would think getting together, discussing it
Yeah.
as much as we can. We're trying to get the Agricultural Commission functioning.
All right.
It's been a tough deal in the last couple of years, it's tough.
All right,
And there really aren't a whole lot of farmers left in town.
and we need you, we need you,
Thank you.
yeah, we need
You're
you.
more than
So,
welcome to help.
so we can schedule a joint meeting between the Ag Committee and the Board of Health if you'd like to do that.
All right, I think that would be good.
Good idea.
I think that would be good too. Yeah, yeah, let's do that.
So it would just be a work session.
Yep,
Yes.
Who's the president now of the Ag?
Yeah.
Right. I'll reach out and we'll figure out some dates. I'll send it to
All right.
you guys.
okay, yeah,
We're shooting to, I met with Julie Kavanaugh last week. We're trying to line up our first official meeting for the second Wednesday of February.
Okay.
and what's that for?
Their first meeting in a long time is gonna be in February.
Oh, okay, all right,
So we can touch base after that.
all right, that sounds good. Because I'm stumbling at this point to put some regulations together. All right, sounds like a plan.
Thank you, that was good input.
So instead of having the town planner come, we'll focus on this.
Let's
this
do,
aspect
yes,
first.
let's do this. Maybe what I will do is try to do a one-on-one with the town planner and see if he knows of any other regulations or bylaws that I haven't seen that we need to look at to say, do they need to be changed or this or that? But I've gone through it and there's a lot there and I don't, yeah. So I'll try to meet with him before we get together with you so we can hash it out.
I would ask the question as to once the town voted to become a farming community, whether the pre-existing rules still apply. Because at one time, pigs were not allowed now.
Yeah, there is one, yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah, there is, yeah. I think I saw that there's one bylaw that, and I missed it in there, that actually said, no swine, no pigs, period.
Right.
Yeah,
That's because of one farmer ruined it for everybody else.
yeah. So, and I think that I did see that, I couldn't find it again, but I think there is a bylaw like that we would need to deal with. So if I work with John first to identify what bylaws apply, then when we sit down with you, we can decide, are they reasonable, get rid of them or change them, and then I guess from there we go back and say they gotta take it to the bylaw committee, I guess. Is that where it
So if
goes?
it's a bylaw, it goes to town meeting.
Oh,
If it's a
town.
regulation, you as the Board of Health can vote it. You don't need to go to town meeting.
Oh, all right, but
So
if it is if it's,
if it's a zoning bylaw, then it would have to go to town meeting.
all right, okay, all right, no,
And I believe it's the planning board that has to refer it.
all right. So, and the town meeting's in May, so the sooner we,
Yeah.
well, we could, yeah.
You as the Board of Health could come up with regulations and then we could.
We could do that. All right, so the sooner we get together, the better. All right, I'm retired, it doesn't matter.
I'm available tomorrow.
I think I could be too, I'm not sure.
Okay, so we'll touch base with scheduling a joint meeting.
All right. Yeah, I don't think what is tomorrow, Wednesday?
Anyone else have anything on that?
Thank you, that was, appreciate it.
Sorry that it's so windy.
Okay. We're not going to vote or anything on that one. That
We-
was just
We
because-
could just take it under consideration and.
Okay.
we'll-
Yeah, all right. And that brought up the thing that we were gonna vote on.
So that's
For
further
three,
down.
that said 3 to 4 pigs, and yet I think there is a bylaw that says you can only have 2 as pets. So I guess that's, so now we're switching from the farming to
Commercial.
pets, not, pets would be commercial, would be, I don't know what you call them, residential pets.
That would be
Pets,
pets, I guess.
pets.
Do you want to go out of order, Chair?
Might as well if they're here,
So it
yeah.
would be the public hearing, so you'd have to open the public hearing.
Okay.
If you wanted to do it now.
Okay, public hearing, to solicit public comment on the proposed creation of fees for piggery applications and for the Board of Health to vote to adopt the fees.
And you don't have to vote on it tonight. If you want to wait, you
But
can.
I'd like their input, if they have any, on,
There's
Okay.
a copy of it up there.
I'm going to open the public hearing,
okay.
and are there any comments from the public?
Oh, I can't find that.
Okay, please.
Can you just come up and talk so everyone on here can hear?
Aaron, Jim Grass. I find it pretty hard to talk about fees when we don't even know what we're really talking about.
See, that's, I know where you're coming from, because I was a little confused with that as well. We come back to that 40,000 square feet, you know, for whatever, and then you can't have more than 2 pigs in residential, and then, you know,
I think we need to get this all worked out as to what's gonna work for the farmers, the neighbors, the community. We all work together with this, set some guidelines,
and then come up with the
you know,
fees.
and then what are the fees for?
Yeah.
You know, we don't even know, are we talking about for inspecting a pen, or because you have 4 pigs and you get 2 for free, we gotta charge for the other 2?
Yeah,
We don't know what we're even doing here.
yeah, all right.
From what I can see.
All right, now that makes sense, because I was kind of, I thought that they had wanted fees to get started, but it was like, that's putting the cart before the horse.
Sure. Then where does the money go?
Yeah,
For what?
I didn't know how, because we were saying 3 to 4 pigs, and now it's saying you can't have more than 2 residential. It was like, I don't know where we were going with the fee idea.
Yeah, I mean,
All right,
Can you
It's
just
not-
come a
it's
little
not with-
closer? They can't hear you. Sorry, I'm getting messages that they can't hear you talk.
Okay.
The speaker's over here for the
Are we gonna
laptop.
talk again?
If you have anything further to add.
so
I have
I'll,
nothing further, I think we need to do a lot of work on this.
all right, before we do the fees, we want to look at,
We can certainly continue this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before the fees,
What
we
the
need to,
fees will be for,
let,
you know.
let's
if
get the
you're
rest of the
charging a
stuff
fee,
ironed out.
There should be a service for the fee,
all right.
you know,
And I just want to ask if there's any people watching and calling in, if there's any other public comments. I guess not. Okay. So I'm going to close the public
I
hearing.
think, did anyone else over? You got?
Did you? Okay. And now we can,
Okay.
what are we going to do?
So if you're not gonna vote, Jen's having a really hard time hearing everyone.
I'm having a tough time hearing all of you at this point. Pretty much everything is inaudible. So my fear is that if the board takes a vote on something, if there is anyone that's listening in, wouldn't want to see it be an open meeting law violation or anything. Everyone's comments are very inaudible.
Jen, would they need to vote or can they just take it under consideration?
Let's say at this point, just take it under consideration,
Okay.
for further discussion.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So that doesn't need a vote then?
No, but you can then
Okay.
close the public hearing.
Okay, I'm closing the public hearing. All right.
Do you want us to go back to the work session?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
So under work session, discussion of continuing to acknowledge and appoint the town clerk to fulfill the role of special agent signing death certificates and burial permits. So we would just need you to take a vote to continue the town clerk as special agent signing death certificates and burial permits.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to accept?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so everyone on the board has accepted the motion.
Thank you. We, for old unfinished business, the hearing for Faulkner at 38 Lincoln Village to consider variances to upgrade an existing failed septic system to a Title V septic system, plan prepared by Dan A. Speakman Construction. Application also shows a proposed family room and garage addition on the first floor and proposed addition and storage addition on the second floor, continued from December 21st, 2021. We did receive an email requesting continuance until February 15th. So we would need a motion to
Thank you.
continue to that date, no earlier than 6:30 PM.
I make a motion, we continue the discussion for Faulkner 38 Lincoln Village Road.
Second it?
All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Everyone has agreed to postpone any further discussion for the next meeting.
Next up is a show cause hearing for 100 Route 28. Show cause hearing to discuss non-compliance with an order issued to upgrade a failed septic system, failure to comply with Board of Health conditions set on November 16th, 2021. Do you want to open it?
I now open the hearing. Hi. Can you state your name?
Stephen Fitzpatrick, 100 Route 28, West Elm.
Okay.
May I give you a brief description on what I intended on doing with the property?
Do you mind just coming up so they can hear you at
Sure.
home? Jen, can you hear okay? Can you hear Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Was having a hard time hearing you, maybe if you get a little, it looks like he's closer, let's try it now.
I purchased the property in 2016 with the intent of, there are 5 buildings on the property. There's the main house, there's a 2-car attached garage, and a 3-car garage, and a carriage house that's zoned commercial. My main intentions when I purchased the property was to convert the property to a multifamily house, which is the best thing for Harwich, I think, that would have been done for that property. I did not move into the property until 2016. I was in the hotel business. Unfortunately, COVID wiped me out in 2020, so I moved to the property in 2020. The property's been vacant. Now, when the system did fail, the system was never used for probably 3 to 5 years. And the tank that did fail, I did power wash it. And then I vacuumed the water out and then put water into the tank. There was never a problem when I moved into, and I'd go every month and add Red X and put water into the system. But I had to keep the heat going too, because I did live there for 3 months during the winters, because I was in the hotel business and I closed the hotels down. I never had a problem with the septic system. I know it did fail, and I do admit that. On the terms, you sent me a letter in like, the first letter was like the end of September, early March. So I went out and I did jump on this right away. I got an engineer. I missed your meeting. I missed the first meeting. It was my mistake. I came in the second day. I came to the office right after the next day of the meeting. I had my dates mixed up. It was totally my fault. I did call an engineer right away, and he told me he'd get back to me within a week. I called him on November 9th, and he told me that he can't do it, I gotta get another thing. This was 2 weeks after I got the letter. And here's the letter that he sent me, if you wanna look at that. Sorry. So I'm trying to comply. The property is for sale. I do have a buyer for the property that wants to do what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I can't do it because I don't have the money. And then so he gave me another engineer. So I got this engineer, November 13th, and he told me he'll do it. The engineering. That's November 13th. I sent him a check on the 27th of November for the down payment for the engineering. Then I thought everybody was going to do it right away, but unfortunately nobody's doing. It's tough. It's tough out there right now. On January 4th, they told me they'll do the soil test that week. The end of the week, I called up, and then they told me that the soil test won't be done until the 18th, which was today.
They were done today, correct?
Yeah, see, and that was signed on the 4th, that I wanted that done. I do have a buyer for the property. He has the cash to do what I wanted to do. And what we're asking for, I will put the money in escrow for the 3-bedroom septic system. He wants to add another bedroom to the septic system. But I'll put the money in escrow, or I'll take the money off of the purchase price. I think RT, is that Richard Thompson?
Correct.
But he does have the money to do what I wanted to do. And we're asking that we can hold off. He's in Hawaii. He just sold 2 condos in Hawaii, and he's coming back here. What we're asking is that, I'll put the money in escrow for the 3-bedroom septic, and he'll add the extra money for the extra system, is what we're asking.
Do you want to hear from the prospective buyer? I think they're trying to speak.
Oh, yes, yes.
Richard, you can go ahead if you'd like to speak.
Might be on mute.
Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, again, it's quite garbled, but I can hear you now, especially I can hear Stephen. And yes, that's basically what we're asking, that I will just take over the responsibility of doing this, and I want to do it right, and he wants to move on. So if we can close on the property and put the money in escrow. I talked to Paul Sweetser today. He's ready to go. He's done the survey work. He did the test hole work, and then we'll proceed from there to design an approved system, and then go ahead and install it. And I won't be living at the property. I want to have it for long-term rental, and then I will be applying to make a living space out of the upstairs of the 2-car garage and add another bedroom there to add to the 3-bedroom septic system. So to redesign it to hold 4 bedrooms, and if that's approved, then go ahead and make that and add again another long-term rental out of that piece of the property.
Okay, I close the hearing.
It was supposed to be February 28th, but he's in Hawaii, and he's not coming back until March, and he'd like me to stay in the house until, he gets back, because he wants the house secured.
When's he getting back?
Richard, when will you be getting back?
Yeah, the end end of March or maybe a little earlier, depending on the need to attend to these things. But
So there's
that's,
a two-part question now of, do you let them continue to have the failed septic system? You had a water shut-off order already in place for February 1st. Second, do you allow a waiver of transfer without upgrade? I would recommend allowing the waiver of transfer.
Yeah.
That comes with the stipulation that the new system be installed within 45 days. But it is up to the board whether you want to continue the water shut-off order for the 1st of February, if you want to change that, the board's call.
Are you living there right now?
Yes.
again, speech is a
Me
little
and my
garbled.
wife.
If maybe Stephen could repeat your question, I understand him a little better.
So my question was to the board members on how they would like to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
To handle. I apologize. It was, I explained to them that it's a two-part question here. One being, they originally ordered a water shut-off for February 1st. Do they want to keep that in place, or do they want to change that date? And the second issue I brought up was you are proposing a waiver of transfer, which I would support that. That provision comes with, if we approve it, the new system is fully installed within 45 days of transfer.
45 days of the transfer of property?
Correct.
Yes, yes, because it will be ready to go certainly by then.
Now, I would
Had
just
long
have,
talk with the engineer today and with his installer, so that certainly is possible.
okay, then my question would be, is the installer going to be able to do that? And then my other question would be, okay, he wanted you to stay in there till he got here.
Yes.
All right, and then where is he going to stay since?
He
is
lives
go-
in Orleans.
I thought he would,
Oh,
He's not
yes,
gonna live
I
in the
live
property. He wants,
I live in Orleans, and
It's a rental property.
I would just be working on the property until it got
Oh,
ready
okay.
to become a
Alright.
long-term rental.
all right.
The
He just,
three-bedroom house and the proposed
all
addition.
right. So
Because
he
the
just wants
highest
you
and
to
best
stay
use-
in it until he gets into the area.
yes, but the highest and best use for this property is multifamily, and it would
Yeah,
be the best
alright.
for the
Alright, that's,
town of
So
Harwich,
the
I
board
think.
could extend the water shut-off to March or April. And also have the provision that the system be installed within 45 days of transfer.
I think that,
Yes.
That makes sense.
I think that's reasonable.
I think the water till April 1st.
Yeah.
Sound good?
It's just while I'm not there, it would be just great to have somebody at the
Yes,
house
yes.
with it heated and looking after it till I get back.
All right. I think that's reasonable.
And allow the waiver of transfer.
Yes,
I agree.
okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to extend the water shut up till April 1st. And the waiver of transfer, what is that supposed to be?
Can we amend that to say that no further extensions will be given?
Yep. I would also actually ask that you require monthly septic pumping.
What would make sense?
Okay.
Sure, sure,
And
If it
to be
was-
submitted to the health department.
sure.
Okay, so the motion is monthly,
Pumping.
septic
Monthly
pumping,
pumping and no further extensions past April 1st.
April 1st, and then the
The
waiver,
waiver.
Install within 45 days.
5 days of transfer.
Sure, I
Okay.
agree.
So that's your motion, right?
So you would still have
With
to
the-
go through the waiver process, just to clarify. Could you hear that, Richard?
I did not.
So you and Stephen will both still have to go through the whole waiver process anyway, though. It's a separate application.
Okay, again, maybe if someone else could repeat that. Your voice is particularly garbled.
It's on this one.
If,
Oh, you're
Katie, can I fill in quickly?
Please.
sure.
So just to make sure I have the motion correct. So we're going to extend the water shut off until April 1st, allow for the waiver for transfer. Install must be completed within 45 days of date of transfer, and monthly septic pump records be submitted to the health department with no further extensions allowed beyond the April 1st deadline. Is that right?
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
What about the waiver?
Okay.
That's
So,
certainly agreeable to me.
Richard and Stephen, the waiver process, and I hope you can both hear me, if you want to reach out to us at the health department tomorrow, we can get you the paperwork to walk you through the waiver process. I believe, and Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, that that's something we do at staff level.
Correct.
It would not have to go back before the board.
Correct, yeah.
So I can take that up tomorrow?
Yep, if you stop by the health department tomorrow, 8:30 to 4, we can get you the waiver application and walk you through the process of filing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was excellent audio. Excellent, perfectly clear. Gotta pass that one around to everybody, I guess.
So I'm sorry, who made that?
Did anyone second the motion yet?
I'll
I had
second it.
Ron,
Right.
who moved, and I just need a second.
Sharon made it, the second.
And everyone in agreement with the motion?
Yes.
Aye.
So
Aye.
the motion has passed unanimously.
Okay.
Okay, sir?
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you very
Okay.
So we should close this like March 25th or something?
You'll have to work with your attorneys on figuring
Okay.
everything out, but
Alright.
the waiver transfer does take a few weeks, so you wanna start it sooner rather than later.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Good
You
night.
too. Okay.
So report of the health director, I have requested to the Board of Selectmen to support the health department with some of the ARPA funding. We need one more person on the staff right now. So we did put in to have a full-time health inspector. Fingers crossed, everything works. The annual report is due in a few weeks. Our initial review has shown that we've already issued more permits this year than we did last year, and we also brought in almost $20,000 more this year than last year, which has been very busy. And also with the sewer update you heard from Dan, hopefully Chatham will be signing the agreement tomorrow, and we can get the order to connect letters out sooner rather than later. That's my report. We don't have any correspondences to go over. And the list of permits is noted. A lot of permits right now,
New year.
most are renewals.
Do I hear a motion to accept the permits?
I'll make a motion to accept the permits.
Sharon, okay? And Ron, second. All in favor of accepting the permits?
Aye.
Aye.
Everyone is in agreement.
Nothing under other?
I make a motion that we close the meeting?
Close the meeting. Do I second? Ron seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Right.
That wasn't bad.
Oh,
2 o'clock.
I know I got a little windy with my stuff, but I just, there
Well,
was
you
just a lot.
deserved it. You put a lot of effort into this.
I-
I think it's a good idea to get the farmers in here to talk about
Yeah,
what they
I just can't, I have spent so much time looking at that stuff and there's just, it's not there and I don't know what to do with what is there.
Let's get the farmers in and see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, yeah.
See what they